Hi, everybody. It is week, see, I'll turn the volume up here real quick. It is week 5. Actually, you're in week 6. I'm just finally summarizing week 5. So I do apologize for my lateness. As usual, things have been just kind of intense lately. But all the grading's done and reviewing all the work for week 5. And I just wanted to make a couple comments. So the Bluebird case was interesting. I think overall you guys did a really nice job responding to the case. I just wanted to spend a little more time on Belinda, and I made some comments to a few of you as I was just adding notes to what you wrote. So Belinda is, to me, probably the most interesting part of this case because she's labeled, and it could be true, but she's labeled a bully or someone who's being difficult or self-serving. So I think it's important to mention that. And I kind of saw a lot of you just kind of jump in and agree with Robin that, she is a bully or she's difficult. And I know in real life things aren't the same as, how you would respond in a case in a class. But be really careful not to fall into that trap. Just because someone has a differing opinion and sometimes the way that they communicate it, from a type perspective, it's probably very T or very logical because they're probably being rather upfront or blunt about it. And so it often can be perceived as negative. And again, in some cases that might be the truth, but in some cases it might be that Robin just didn't want to hear it. And so because of that, she labeled Belinda a bully or a negative person. So it could be that is the problem that Bluebird's suffering from regarding their turnover. And it could be that is the solution. The weekend hours could be the solution that they need to do some research on and find out what they can do as an alternative. So Belinda very well could be a change agent for Bluebird that could take it to the next level of growth. So I also wanted to share with you what Norhaus said in his notes regarding the case. He said in regards to question 6, to strengthen the organization, I would suggest that Robin needs to create a 5-year plan. This case study makes it appear that Robin is opposed or slow to accept change, but change has taken place in the organization. With this in mind, if she is taking charge of the organization growth through a structured plan, she may not feel as much trepidation towards change. She also needs to be challenged more as a leader by the team and manage the interactions herself. She has surrounded herself with followers, and she also needs to hire people in the future who can move the organization to new heights, which rarely happens with status quo thinking. So even though many of you commented that we didn't have all the information, and of course no case could address everything that the real life situation might be, I really encourage you to just have a discipline about you to look at what appears to be evident, and then when you see something that's kind of like off a bit, like a Belinda, dig deeper and look into what might be. So in this particular case, I would have loved to have seen a discussion, and I think a couple of you did raise Belinda's a question regarding Belinda, but just raise the question, like you wonder why this and why that. So just really focus on the thinking skills that goes into making this decision, not so much what your final answer would be. So it's more of a thinking exercise. So I also just wanted to comment briefly from from a type perspective, so a couple of years ago, I did some research around this for a presentation I was doing, and there's a lot of research around the use of type in helping teams be more functional or have better outcomes. And one of the articles suggested that teams that are more diverse typically report that the communication was more difficult. It took a lot more time to get through it, but they achieved, or communication and decision making was more challenging. But the outcomes of that particular team, so these diverse teams, were far more advanced and creative than any of the individual team members thought was possible. So again, it is human nature to want to surround yourself with people who are like you. There's a comfort level with it, and there's an ease about it. So, which I completely get. But if you really want to take organizations and groups and departments and teams to the next level, you need to expand that by adding a few Belindas here and there, and as well as other members of the group. So, and then creating an atmosphere, as I think we talked about last week, creating an environment or an atmosphere within these meetings that allow everyone to be able to safely contribute. So, again, I know it sounds textbook, but I'm telling you, I can think of more examples of poor teams because they're all the same than I can see people really challenging themselves with diverse teams. So anyhow, discussion question 17 was about dysfunctional teams. A lot of you really ate this up, as you should, because we spent a lot of time in teams. So last year, I actually posted an additional article for the group to read if they wanted to. And I'm not going to post it for you guys, but you can easily find it if you'd like to look more at it. But it's a Harvard Business Review article called "Stop Wasting Money on Team Building," which obviously caught my eye. But it's a really compelling work that was done by a company to really help just transform their approach to teams. So I do encourage you. It's an easy read. It'd take you 15 minutes or so. But there was two fundamental findings in this article. One was that they needed to do a better job of articulating why teamwork was important. So why collaboration, obviously within these teams, was essential to the organization achieving business results. So basically, you can read all of what you want to hear, or all you can read in the article. But it came down the group decided that the major goal for why teamwork or why collaboration is important was for the purpose of developing the group, so people development, and then deploying strategy. So, which, I would have never expected that. But, when you read the article, you're just like, well, holy cow, that makes sense. So the second question they asked was, what work or what specific tasks would require collaboration to deliver on results? So realizing that some work is appropriate for collaboration and team work, and other is not. It's more individually driven. And so they really spent a lot of time going through all of the lists of, what had to be accomplished and deciding what would benefit from collaboration and what didn't. And then they made a clear connection to who was responsible and when it was due. So accountability was tied to those individuals and or groups. So I like the article because I oftentimes you hear people mention, teamwork, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's good, or we should collaborate, or we should do this, we should do that. But if you really think about, like, so what is it and what makes it work well, we do very, very little to really totally understand it. So what happens is that, and again, I don't know about your life, but I spend a lot of time in meetings, and it is a colossal waste of time because they're not run there's no collaboration that goes on in these meetings at all, unless somebody gets sick of sitting there and decides they want to collaborate. So I think if we're going to really use teams, and believe me, I'm a sole believer in teams, I think we need to restructure them and really get clear and specific on what is the purpose and what is the expected outcome. Boom. So, and I think that fits really nicely. This article, I think, fits very nicely as kind of an additional case, or a case about is supportive of Chapter 14, and then the dysfunctions of a team model. So anyhow, teams are going to be part of our lives, but I think we need to work more on really understanding what they're about. So, and then finally, you did some work on culture. So I've had a major revelation the last few years about the critical nature of culture. I really sincerely believe that it is the primary purpose of especially people in senior positions. And I'm talking like, senior directors, VPs, and up. I think fundamentally their job has to be about diagnosing, fixing, and maintaining healthy cultures that support the achievement of results. But, again, I see a lot of people who don't understand the relevance of culture. So a couple of you really engaged in this article. Several of you didn't do it because it is rather deep. It's a deep subject. So, I won't pretend. And those videos are brutal. So, but I think what Shine is presenting is just honestly pure gold. So, there's a lot that goes into understanding culture and how to function within it. And as a leader, the ability of an organization to achieve what you're setting out to do is driven by culture. So since arriving at RIT, actually in my interview, I kept trying to dig for answers about the culture of RIT. And I kept asking people, so what do you really like about working here? And what really troubles you or bothers you? Or what's one thing that if you could change, you would at this institution? And I actually was doing that in the interview. So they're like, do you have any questions? I'm like, well, yeah, I do. So I had lots of questions. But I could sense that either RIT was the most perfect place on earth, which, I've been around the block enough, I knew that wasn't the case, or the people I was asking didn't know it, which is possible, or, but unlikely, or they wouldn't share it with me. So I still accepted the job because a couple of people were giving me some straight answers that gave me a little bit of a clue that it was going to be okay. But anyhow, it's taken me 2.5 years to even crack the surface of trying to understand how things function within this organization. And though the culture of RIT and any organization that you work in can be the differential advantage and the source of great success, it can also paralyze you. It's like a straitjacket if you can't get it figured out. So anyhow, I was really, really looking for more references to humble inquiry. And I know that required you to read or listen to an entirely separate video. But again, according to Shine, 90% of behavior is driven by cultural norms and values, or cultural rules and values. So to create a new culture, the leader has to start by understanding what the real culture is. Why do people act and behave the way that they do in an organization? And that the way that they act and behave is driven by the culture within that organization, in some cases, in most cases. So to understand the real culture, you have to engage in this humble inquiry, or meeting with people to learn from them in a very objective, non-threatening way. Why this and why that, so that you can really start to understand what it is. And once you understand what it is, then you can start to create a new culture within. So yeah, it's super interesting. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, I find it just absolutely fascinating. So, and then Dropbox 6, the followership and team leadership assessment. Super nice work on that. I can see that you guys really enjoy doing these assessments because they kind of give you this hands-on view of what does this really look like in practice. So followership is relatively new in the world of leadership. I think it is some of the coolest stuff that's coming out, and largely because I believe it supports this concept of small L leadership, and it supports where a lot of organizations are going in this day and age. So it's less about hierarchical structures because there's fewer people up there, and it's more about how can we empower people in these mid, and even lower level positions to engage in making us better. I wholeheartedly believe in that. I do think it requires leaders to engage in it to make it even more effective, but because there's a limit what you can do if your feedback and input is not welcome. Been there, done that too. And part of the reason why I left where I was I didn't see the purpose of being there anymore if my feedback and involvement wasn't being used or valued. So you have to kind of think about that, and just keep working into positions within organizations where you feel like you have your opportunity to contribute. So, and it takes time. I mean, I'm not suggesting anybody quit, but it took me, years to get into these positions. And then once you're there, they're a ton of work. In my director role here, it's exhausting work. But there's something so energizing about it because, I feel like I can use these concepts and theories that I learn with you about and apply them and hopefully achieve some pretty exciting stuff. So anyhow, that's it for this week. So again, I do apologize for getting this posted so late. So overall, I think the reflection papers are much, much better. Everyone's really taking time to directly apply this to what you intend to do. I will mention also that the evaluations for the course are up and available. You should have received, I think you get an email or something like that. I would really, really appreciate it if you take the time to respond to that. I'd appreciate any type of constructive feedback you can offer on how to improve this course. So that's how the course gets better from term to term. You benefited from last semester or last fall's class. So we just need to pay it forward a little bit and help me. Anyhow, if I can do anything, let me know. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week and a weekend. And I'll be looking at week 6 here, like probably later today. And then we're in the home stretch, in the very home stretch. So anyhow, take care and stay in touch. Bye.